Hello everybody, you're listening to The Archer on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host Dane Cobain. This is the weekly radio show where we chat about the local arts news. We have a different guest on each week. We head over to the Rhylight Zone for a short story and or some poetry. We catch up with Twangling Jack Ford over in the Oak Shed for a weekly album review. And we play local, unsigned and or independent music. As always, if you want to reach out to me here at the studio, you can drop me a line on dane.cobain@wickhamsound.org.uk. That's dane.cobain@wickhamsound.org.uk. And I'm particularly keen to hear from poets, performers, musicians, people with MP3s that'd like to share local arts news. Don't hesitate to get in touch. You can also find us on Facebook. If you search for The Art Show on Wickham Sound, you should be able to find us. And we are repeated on Wickham Sound on Monday nights. We're on the Wickham Sound Listen Again, iTunes, Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcasts. We're going to head over to the Rhylight Zone for the latest instalment of Insomniac, which is a novella by myself, Dane Cobain. Part 2, Hallucinations. Week 16, Day 3. Kate was in breakdown mode. Without a job, there was nothing to get out of bed for. Sure, she'd hated working under the watchful eye of Mr. Murray, but it had given her something to live for. Now, with no excuse to set an alarm, her sleeping pattern gave up the ghost and completely disintegrated. It was a far cry from the organised life she'd led for the last 20 years. If her life was a tower of cards, someone had yanked the 6 of clubs from the bottom tier. She was teetering over the brink, and there was no one there to catch her if she fell. By day 3, she'd resorted to lying in bed and waiting for the minutes and the hours to tick by, especially at night. She'd memorised a quote that she'd seen in a meme, and she liked to recite it to herself when she couldn't sleep. If life is really as short as they say, then why is the night so long? Kate didn't have an answer for that, but the question had got her thinking. She had a lot of time to think. Despite spending most of her time in bed, she was surviving on 4 or 5 hours of sleep a day, mostly in random naps of an hour or so when her body caught her mind unawares and sleep snuck up on her. When she wasn't asleep or trying to get there, she was talking to Nana Knight and listening to the dead old woman's sanguine responses from another plane. And then on the 3rd day of week 16, her grandmother came to visit. Kate woke from a fitful sleep to see her sitting there beside her. Her room was so small that her grandmother and her chair only just fit inside it, and the result was that the old woman's face was barely 1.5 feet away from her. Even in the darkness, it was impossible to miss her. Kate shrieked and covered her face, then backed up against the headboard and cowered away. Her head told her that this wasn't possible, but her heart told her that her head made mistakes, but her heart could always be relied on. Deep down, on some subconscious level, she knew that her grandmother was really real, back from the dead somehow to pass judgment. "Look at you," the old lady purred, her hands dancing a subconscious fandango with the needles. She was making a twiddle muff for the girls at the nursing home, just like she used to do when Kate was a little kid on her mother's knee. "You look awful." "I know, Nana," Kate said. "I'm sorry, I'll try harder." "You'd better, my girl." Nana Knight stifled a yawn and shot a withering look at her granddaughter, who was still on edge in her bed with the sheets pulled up to her chin like she was trying to preserve her modesty. "I'll know if you fail me, like you usually do." "How will you know, Nana?" The old woman flashed a toothless smile at her. "I'll be watching," she said. Week 17, day 1. It was one of those days. As if it being a Monday wasn't bad enough, she'd had a panic attack at the dole office and made herself look like a fool. She'd been struck with a sudden horror that hit her like a bolt of lightning. One minute she'd been talking to an unemployment officer about an interview at the supermarket. The next she was sat in the back of a police car trying to explain her unusual medical history to an unsympathetic cop called Gary Mogford. "What's the last thing you remember?" Mogford asked. "I was talking to the lady at the unemployment office," she replied. "Then, nothing. I'm just suddenly here with you." Mogford murmured, stroking the 5 o'clock shadow that had sprung up on his face like bushes across the English countryside. "So you don't remember anything that happened between then and now?" "No, not at all," Kate said. Mogford repeated. "I suppose I'd better bring you up to date. We were called out after you flew into a rage before turning mostly unresponsive. You were walking around in a daze when we arrived and offered up no resistance." "So what's next?" Kate asked. "Nothing, I suppose," Mogford said, his tone of voice suggesting that he'd said it reluctantly. "It seems that there was no malicious intent, and the receptionist doesn't intend to press charges. If I was you, I'd stick around for the ambulance and seek treatment." "And what about you? And I have more important things to be dealing with than someone's dizzy spells." She didn't bother to watch the policeman as he walked away. Instead, she sat down on a low wall and tried to catch her breath and then waited for the ambulance to arrive. The paramedics told her that there was nothing wrong with her. You're listening to The Archer on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain. That was the latest instalment of Insomniac for this week's entry into the Rhylight Zone, and this is Twangling Jack Ford with Take Your Dogma for a Walk.
This world is a cruel enough place without people always shouting in your face. If you can't find anything kind to say, just hold your tongue and walk away. 'Cause everyone deserves to find some peace of mind. Everyone deserves to find some peace of mind. Life is hard enough as it is, without people always taking risks. If I find something you say is not for a boy, still I'll hold it close if it brings me joy. 'Cause everyone deserves to find some peace of mind. Everyone deserves to find some peace of mind. To compromise we must talk, and you need to take your dogma for a walk. There's nothing says we must be friends, so don't change my words to suit your ends. 'Cause everyone deserves to find some peace of mind. Everyone deserves to find some peace of mind. This life I lead is not the one I would choose, and I'm the only one that has to walk in these shoes. I don't feel dressed if I don't wear a hat, so why must I have to explain why I'm fat? Everyone deserves to find some peace of mind. Everyone deserves to find some peace of mind.
That was Get 'Em Up Joe by Straight 8, and before that we had Take Your Dogma for a Walk by Twangling Jack Ford. You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain, and I'm joined in conversation now by this week's guest, who is author and musician, JD Estrada.
The first question is one that I ask everybody, and it's what was the last book that you read, and what did you think of it?
The last book that I finished was Dirk Gently's Holistic Agency. I'm a fan of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I love it. I wanted to read something else by Douglas Adams. Sometimes the sentences are very long. It's like, what the hell did I just read? And you have to go a little bit back. It was a lot of fun, kept me guessing. And I am 15 pages away from finishing the sixth book in the Discworld, which is Weird Sisters. And my love for Terry Pratchett grows with every page.
Awesome. Both good choices. It's funny, I recently, not too long ago, I read The Shepherd's Crown, which is the last Discworld. And I also, not too long ago, read Mostly Harmless by Douglas Adams. In fact, today I was reading The Meaning of Life, which is a short little gimmicky book that he did with a guy called John Lloyd, who's a producer here in the UK. But basically, they took a bunch of place names and created fictitious definitions for them. Here, I'll flick in at random. For example, well, this is relevant to me because I've been running today. Kingston Bagpuice. And so that's a place apparently, and the definition for it is a 40-year-old 16-stone man trying to commit suicide by jogging. So it's basically just a dictionary of these like humorous definitions based on place names. So yeah, it's funny. We've both been reading Pratchett and Adams recently, and I guess there's well, that leads in nicely to what I want to chat to you about, which is about your writing. How long have you been writing, and where did you get your start?
Officially writing, as in working on a book that I would publish, I started in 2006. I started writing the first book of the Human Cycle, which is Only Human. Took me 6 years to write, a full year to transcribe because I wrote it all by hand, and to edit and to proofread, and it was a pain. But it was definitely a labor of love. And so far, I'm 21 books into what I've published. I'm going to be publishing a couple more books, but I'm going to be writing to Query just to give that a go.
Yep. Cool.
And how did I get started? I think the first time that I ever got some positive encouragement was her story. She's like, this is really good. And then I wrote another one and she was like, what happened? Because the other one was good and this one is like, nah. So more of the other stuff. And I'm like, okay, I took note.
Awesome. And who were some of your influences? Is it Douglas Adams and Terry Pratchett, or is it, who are some of the writers who influence your style?
And I love Douglas Adams and Terry Pratchett. Terry Pratchett, I actually discovered late and actually after he passed away. First book that I read from him was Mom Was Gonna Have Surgery. And I took a book and I read it in one go, which was The Color of Magic. And so it was definitely something special, but not a full-on influence. I would go the cliches of Tolkien and C.S. Lewis are definitely there. But I think Neil Gaiman definitely is the one that I read that broke me, that I read and when I read The Sandman, I was like, okay. And it planted a lot of seeds and it broke down a lot of walls in my head and my heart. And I refer to Neil as Brother Neil and Uncle Terry because when I read their stuff, it just connects to a certain level. I was influenced by the Harry Potter series. I know that's not a popular stance nowadays, but it's something that I mentioned because I just, sometimes we got to divorce the art from the artist, and I'm always going to love that world.
Yeah. Well, and as well, if you go back to, especially, I think people sort of our generation and our age, when we first read it was before J.K. Rowling was using Twitter. So it was a lot different for perhaps for our generation to read it than for, kids of today who can kind of see some of the more problematic stuff that she's put out there as well. But I mean, it's one of those where we could have a whole conversation about separating the art from the artist. I mean, I really enjoy Charles Bukowski, but at the same time, he was a womanizing alcoholic, gambling addict. Like he's not the kind of person I would be friends with. But the guy could write. I guess the same with Hemingway as well. You know, it's like he could write. I don't like him as a person, but I have to admit he can write. You know.
Now, I think my best example of that would be Lovecraft. I
Yeah.
adore Lovecraft, and it's the only author that I've read and I vividly dreamt about, and also an
Mm.
influence, but definitely someone I would not want to meet and would not want to cross paths because obviously being Latino, being from Puerto Rico, I would not be to his liking, and the feeling
Yeah.
would be mutual.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing with Lovecraft as well is, you know, a lot of the time people will say about an author, yes, well, they were a product of their times or whatever. And it's like, yes, Lovecraft was a product of his times, but he was considered racist for his times. That's how racist he was, you know. So, but as you say, it is that whole sort of
Exactly.
separating the art from the artist. Well, and you know, you mentioned your sort of your Puerto Rican heritage. Does that play into your writing style, do you think?
Not so much in English or not so much in all my works. And I have to unpack that a bit. Part of the I think as writers, we all have a chip on our shoulder or something that we want to prove. And I wanted to prove that I didn't have to be a BIPOC author or just
Yeah.
double down on my Hispanicness with what I'm writing and just wanted to hone my craft and write stuff that resonates with me and resonates with as large a population as possible. I didn't want to write for a niche.
Yeah.
But that said, there's actually a bilingual collection that I have that is called 2020. The English part has that universal appeal. The Spanish part, when I read back and I was proofreading and editing and all that, I was like, wow, this is very Puerto Rican. And I released last year my first collection of short stories in Spanish, which is called Penumbra. And the entire that entire collection is very Puerto Rican. I'm not sure I'll ever translate that. But it came out that way, and it's something that I'm going to be exploring more. And in future projects in English, there's probably going to be more than one Puerto Rican character, just because people have this notion of what a Puerto Rican person is.
Mhm.
I do not check any of those boxes. My favorite band is Pearl Jam. My favorite
Yeah.
boxer is Juan Manuel Marquez, who is Mexican, and that would be offensive to most Puerto Ricans.
Yeah.
Um, and when I did a fully English version of 2020, and when I was translating that, it was a real challenge because being so Puerto Rican, I had to basically rewrite the story so that it would be accessible. One thing is to make a translation, another thing is creation so that anyone that read
Mm.
it would get it. And it's not only English speaking people that live in Puerto Rico, which is a niche within a niche within a niche.
Cool. And you know, you mentioned you've got a whole bunch of books out there. Which one or ones are you the proudest of?
It's you can't ask a parent which baby they're proudest of. I think they all capture a bit of who I am.
Yeah.
One of my biggest influences in terms of what I do would be David Bowie, just because no matter the genre that he explored or the style of music, it always sounded like Bowie, and that's very important
Yeah.
for me. That whether it's poetry, nonfiction, short stories, middle grade, or urban fantasy or horror, that you read it and you go like, yeah, that he wrote. No one else could have written that story or that piece except him.
Hmm.
Yeah. Which one am I most proud of though? Yeah, different reasons. I think the one that I felt like it fulfilled most of my vision and that I really hit the nail on the mark would be Given to Fly, which is a middle grade novel. It's a short read. It's fun. I wanted to write something without violence, and I think that every single box that I wanted to tick, I did tick. And
Yeah.
I'm very proud of that book. But by the same token, when it comes to the human cycle with Only Human and Shadow of a Human and now Beyond Human, which I'm working on, I'm going there and I'm pushing some topics that might get me into hot water, but I think it's to open a conversation about morality, religion, what's correct, what's virtuous, what's not, and the different expressions of humanity that we might encounter. Um, and last year I also released the second volume of the Daydreams of the Sherbet Shore. Those are short stories, and the thing is that the first volume, the stories are like what, 5 to 6 pages long on average, and maybe the last one is a bit longer. The stories in this one are like 12, 15, 20 pages long, and it feels like everything got fleshed out. It feels like the world has grown, and I think it's very heartfelt, and I think it's one of the most heartfelt books that I've written. So yeah, it's I can't choose between my children, my book children.
You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain. I'm here in conversation with author and musician JD Estrada. And this is So Long Space Girl with Letter to My Younger Self.
I'm aware that you don't know me, but this is you at age 23. I remember all the days of feeling numb, looking up from the bottom. You refuse to eat, but you don't know why. It's because you want to die. And you don't know if you're trying to hold on or just disappear completely. And I know that you're not well, and the future looks like hell, and happiness seems completely out of reach. But I promise you'll be fine, and the pain will fade with time. But the people that I've left behind still haunt me. So to whom it may concern, I'm not about to break, 'cause each and every day I will make mistakes, and I know that I've done wrong, but it's all behind me now. I'm sorry that I let you down, to whom it may concern. About to
That was Letter to My Younger Self by So Long Space Girl. You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain. And it's time for us to be rejoined in conversation now by this week's guest, who is author and musician, JD Estrada.
Well, and you mentioned Pearl Jam, you mentioned Bowie, and you know, I know you're a musician as well. How long have you been playing guitar, and do you sing and or play any other instruments?
I have been playing guitar since I was 16, 17. I took 2 classes and stopped taking classes because classes and I, when it comes to music, do not get along. Everything that I've ever played, recorded, and shared, I actually have a playlist on YouTube with about 30 tracks and a couple of covers. It's me and a guitar. It's not the best audio quality. I don't have the best voice, but it is very me. And if I'm ever gonna do something else with that, who knows? Right now, it's absolutely purely for pleasure.
Yeah. Cool. And how does songwriting compare to writing fiction and writing books?
Writing in general, it varies from project to project and from song to song. What sparks an idea is different. Um, Maybe you have a couple of chords that make sense, and you have one lyric, and then every time that you play it, something pen to paper. Sometimes I have the lyrics completely fleshed out, and then I'm like, how am I going to put music to this? And that's a much more difficult process for me. Um, Sometimes I have a melody, but it's more drum or bass driven, and I'm screwed because I only play guitar. I've dabbled with piano, but when I say dabbled, I'm being generous with that word. It's not like I can carry a tune. I can play a whole song on guitar, but I can't play a fraction of a song in pretty much any other instrument.
Yeah. Cool. And so you mentioned before we started chatting today, you're eating some custard creams in honor of our call. You've also done
Yeah.
some Tasty Tuesday videos, and I wondered what are some of the tastiest things that you've tasted for Tasty Tuesday?
Okay. When you say tasty, there's what has been magnificent and one has been awful. And people have asked me why I do those. It's like, if you're an author, why are you doing that? First off, I do it for entertainment. Second off, I do it just to invite people to try new stuff.
Yep.
I'm the type of guy that will not order the same ice cream every time that he goes to an ice cream parlor. And I love variety. Stuff that has absolutely sucked. Last week, I shared one that is high up there, which is a pickle lollipop. It's sweet and sour pickle lollipop. And you just have to see my face to see how bad it is. If you go do a deep dive, there's actually a coconut curry yogurt
Wow.
with roasted cashews that I tried. And that is one of the most foul things I've ever tried. And that's in terms of entertainment, those are the best. In terms of the tastiest, a friend of mine sent me a European box that had some candies that I'd never tried. And those are definitely high up there in terms of tasty. I remember the first time that I tried a chocolate bar from a Washington State based company called Theo. Um, and I fell in love with it because yes, I eat a lot of junk food, but I want to try to eat clean when I can. And if I can have a treat and it's not as bad for me, then even better. And that company, the ingredients are like 4 ingredients, 3 ingredients, maybe 6 ingredients. And I'm like, I can get on board with that. And I remember trying it and just my eyes going like, whoa, I want to try everything that this brand has. And, all of that is fun. And I love when I taste something that is something that I haven't recorded. And this is probably the root of it all. I remember the first time that having sushi that I tried sea urchin. Sea urchin is a very particular flavor and it is very polarizing. Either you love it or you hate it. But I remember the first time that I tried it and just like my taste buds exploded. And I was absolutely blown away. And I'm like, I want to try as many random things as possible.
And so you post those on your YouTube channel, and I wondered if you could define for us what is BookTube, what is AuthorTube, and where do you sort of fit in amongst all of that, if at all?
Uh, I used to be a lot more active with BookTube and AuthorTube, but because of a couple of reasons, it got to be a chore. What is booktube? Booktube is talking about the books that you love or book related stuff, just your love of reading. Authortube is the flip side in terms of what do you do as an author? What advice can you share with people, not from a place of authority, but from a place of experience? Um, a lot of people have asked me a variety of questions, and when I see a question pop up 5 or 6 times in different social media platforms from people from different countries and different
Hmm.
age ranges, I go like, this is worth a video just because not that I mind repeating myself or engaging in conversation, but I'm like, a lot of people have this question. Um, for newbie readers, I like to share like beyond tips and tricks, it's like, word to the wise or be careful with these scams and these people that are trying to make money off you in really, really vile ways. Because as part of the writing community, it's very important for us to take care of each other, especially indie and small press.
Hmm.
Just because there are so many people that want to take advantage of that desire to make it, desire for success, desire for breaking
Yeah.
through, and they will. I know people who have lost. It's not invested. They have lost thousands upon thousands of dollars, and
Yeah.
that's not right. And I don't charge for my advice or any help that I can give. First off, I'm not a consultant. Second off, if I ever was a consultant, I wouldn't charge what some people charge.
Yeah.
I would probably charge it just to try to make a living off that. It's not
Yeah.
to take
Cover
advantage
your
of people.
costs. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And beyond that, AuthorTube is also it's a platform to express who and how you are as a writer and try to let people in a little bit more about who you are. A lot of people do a
mhm.
lot of promotion, like, nonstop. And for me, that's a turnoff in terms of what motivates me, what gets my creative juices going, and what is fulfilling. For me, that doesn't tick any of the boxes. I try to have fun with promotion and do different things. Maybe that's why I'm not so successful because you know, I don't have that cutthroat mentality. But at the very least, I use it as a platform so people can get to know who I am and how I am. And so that
Yeah.
when we meet in person, they go like, oh, it's the same guy. It's not a persona.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it kind of comes back to what you were saying earlier about, all of your stories coming across as being written by you as well. That you are true to yourself, both in your writing and in how you conduct yourself as well. But one of the things I wanted to ask you, mentioned you used the word success there, and I wanted to ask you, what does success look like to you? How will you know that you've quote unquote made it?
You're never gonna know if you may. I think some people are about fake it until you make it, or they have an absolute belief in themselves. I to quantify any success or impact that I may have, I have to take about 5 steps back and be objective. To give you an example,
Yeah.
last year I had a very up and down year. It was very intense in terms of what I had to do work wise, health stuff that I had to cope with, and writing stuff that I did in one year. And I was like feeling a little bit down, and then I took a couple steps back, and I was like, okay, this year you finished a Spanish horror short story collection, and you published it, and people really like it. You published the second volume of the Daydreams on the Sherbet Shore, and the people who have read it and have hopped on board, they were like, oh, I really like this. You finished the manuscript for a third novel that you're editing right now, but you finished that. So those are three big milestones
Mm.
that I did in a year that was not cooperating with me. I also sent over a story for an anthology that I was invited to participate in. So those are four milestones. I went to the Puerto Rico Comic Con and I had my most successful year yet. I sold about 140 books over the weekend. People were super happy, and for me, that's always a reminder that I am progressing just because I have some people that are return readers,
Yeah.
and some people are like, you're always my first stop. And for me, it's if you go to the Puerto Rico Comic Con and you see how many artists, authors, and things there are to see, for someone to say that, and it's
Mm.
not like it's absolute, BS. It's 9:08 or 9:15, the doors opened at 9 o'clock, so they had to decipher how to get to your booth, and you were their first stop. To know
Yeah.
that some people hold me in that esteem, to me, that's a lot of success.
Yeah.
To give you another example, with you asked me which is my favorite book and which one makes me the proudest. Each one I have very special moments. One of the most special moments, there's a poem that I wrote in a collection called Dark Strands, and then I included that in like a omnibus collection that has like 5 collections. The poem is called The Box, and I wrote that after my father passed away, just to cope with the feeling after the funeral and stuff like that. Um, and someone came up to the booth, and they're like, "You're JD Estrada," and I'm like, pointing at the sign behind me. I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, you got the right place." And then they said, "You're the author of Dark Strands," and I'm like, "Okay, this is not going how I expected it, but okay." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, The Box," and I go like, "Oh wow, yeah, that was an intense poem. It's not long, but it was intense because of so and so." And then she went, "That's the first time I've ever read something that helped me understand what I was feeling when Dad died." This
Yeah.
in a convention, and I'm trying not to choke the hell up, because caught me off guard, and it's something that I repeat often because it meant a lot to me. If you ask the general population in Puerto Rico who's JD Estrada, if they don't know Nisha and they don't know Indy, I'm
Hmm.
absolutely nobody. But for this particular
Yeah.
person that picked up a very short poetry collection and read something, it helped them cope with one of the hardest losses that you will ever have to face in your life.
Yeah.
If that's not success, I don't know what the hell is, man.
Yeah. Well, and the number of things like say like charities where they say if we just help one person, then it's all been worthwhile. And I suppose it's the same there with your writing. If you connect with just one person, it's all been worthwhile. And there's a lot to be said about enjoying the journey as well. If you can enjoy the journey, then maybe that is success in enjoying the journey.
No, it's definitely part of success is enjoying the journey. But we all say that like if only one person, and we do it like we're at a Miss whatever pageant. It's like
Mm.
if I only get read by one person, that's enough for me. No, it's not.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be open. I'm gonna be frank. I want more people to read me. I want more people to connect. And yes, that does feed ego. And yes, that does feel that sense of importance and that you matter. Sure, it's all that, but that doesn't mean it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
But appreciating those quote unquote small moments, because although it was small in the sense that it was an exchange that didn't last 20 minutes,
Yeah.
and that it happened within a convention. And actually, they actually came to say thank you and for me to sign the book. They didn't buy an
Yeah.
extra book. For me to be able to hold on and to remember that and to treasure that, that's something that is gonna stick with me until I die.
Yeah. Cool. Just a couple more questions to end on. One of them I wanted to ask. So I was checking out your bio, and you mentioned on there you
Hmm.
share a birthday with a few famous folk.
Hmm.
Who do you share a birthday with, and why is that significant?
Okay, I share a birthday. Let's go positive and negative. With Alfred Hitchcock, that's pretty awesome. To
Mhm.
be able to say, "Oh yeah, I was born on August 13th, and that's the birthday of Hitchcock," and that's some bragging rights in terms of zodiac stuff.
Mhm.
Um, and I always found that interesting. By the same token, it is also the birthday of Fidel Castro. That's an absolute suckfest for several reasons. First off, I'm not a fan of dictators. Second off, my mom was Cuban.
Mhm.
Um, and she is one of there's a generation in Puerto Rico of children that are called the Peter Pan children, which
Yeah.
are um, young Cubans who were forced in exile when they were like mom was 9 when she was forced to leave Cuba. And when I mean
Yeah.
that she was forced to leave Cuba, please understand she's Cuban. She only speaks Spanish. She's 9 years old, and she was sent to Miami to
Yeah.
an orphanage run by nuns that did not speak Spanish. You see the problems with this equation.
Mhm.
She went alone. She took about a year or a year and a half to meet up with my uncle, and about another year to meet up with my grandparents. So yeah, not a fan of Fidel Castro. Let's say it that way.
Well, on a brighter note, just want to finish up with what's next for you. So what have you got planned for this year, and where can people follow you to stay up to date and find out more?
To follow me, JD Estrada writer, search for it on your preferred social media platform, and I'm probably there. And if I'm not, I don't think I'm ever going to be there. And plans are I am hitting Beyond Human to finish the human cycle. It is a very personal, very intense journey. You don't have to wait until the third book comes out to read the first and second book. You can find physical copies. There's a shop in Puerto Rico called Tazas y Portadas if you're stateside, or you want to check what shipping is to the UK from Puerto Rico, and you want to receive something from Puerto Rico, you can check that store out. If not, there's always the Zon. They're a necessary evil, and eventually I hope to outgrow that. And right now I'm focused solely on that project. Once I get done with that, we can have fun and we can talk about other stuff. But for now, Beyond Human, hitting it hard. As I'm reading and editing, I'm very happy and very proud. I was very scared because it's me landing a series and finishing a series. So it's definitely going to be a milestone, and I've learned a lot. So join me for that human journey.
Big thank you to JD Estrada for joining me. You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain, and this is Bert Honor with Not a Cloud.
Colder winds are sweeping in, and I'll keep you warm for a while. But I'm human too, and I break like you, and my bones, they chill to ice. No amount of wine can make this fine whiskey. It numbs the pain, but a sober mind can see it's time for us to part again. The rains arrive, and still we strive to keep the dream alive. Though it's not goodbye, as my wings take flight, you'll be always on my mind. Different stations and rationalities. Through every season, you'll always be with me. The sun will rise, and I'll realize the beauty in your eyes. We'll meet once more, cross that wind-swept shore. We're not a cloud in all the sky. Yes, we'll meet once more, kiss like never before. We're not a cloud in all the sky.
Lost me for help to give you shelter from the storm.
That was Thunder by Jazz Dillon, and before that we had Not a Cloud by Bert Honor. You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain, and it is time for us to head over to the Oak Shed now to catch up with Twangling Jack Ford for this week's album review.
The Only Ones, The Immortal Story. Back when I was out most nights playing or rehearsing, I used to do temp agency jobs. At one job I found myself packaging perfume bottles in Perivale with a much older man. One day he told me that I sounded like I was on drugs. I wasn't, but I knew what he meant. I was no stranger to the odd jazz cigarette, but I took the music and driving too seriously to want to voluntarily impede myself. It was not the sound of drugs in my voice, but the sound of indifference and contempt, which is actually quite a similar noise. A friend of mine bought the Only Ones single Lovers of Today, and we both declared it perfect. Like Lou Reed singing with Marquee Moon era television. The singer, Peter Perrett, really did sound like he was on drugs, and he was. During the brief time the Only Ones were in the spotlight, Peter Perrett was living it up at his own party, and as we all know, a party can start all ha-ha he and end up with someone losing an eye. We went to see the Only Ones at the Marquee, though we only knew the single and the B-side. But the rest of the set sounded promising, especially the song they announced as their next single, Another Girl, Another Planet. And what a song! A song still played on the radio and covered by covers bands. If you watch the film London Town, which is a fictional story featuring Joe Strummer of The Clash, you will see a scene where a lone guitarist is backing a solo female singer in a pub. They are performing Another Girl, Another Planet. If you are familiar with the Wickham music scene based around the Bellevue pub, you might recognise the guitarist as the legendary axe hero Rick Cunningham. And you might ask yourself why Rick Cunningham, but you will never stop to wonder why Another Girl, Another Planet. On this compilation, the early songs have a ragged, shambolic charm. They have almost structureless structures, like Syd Barrett's solo songs. It sounds like they either don't know the rules, or else they just want to tear up the rulebook. This oddness keeps you hooked. You want to keep listening to them in the hope that you might fathom them out. Peter Perrett phrases lyrics like a Cockney Morrissey, or even Jilted John. In the song No Peace for the Wicked, the title line is repeated numerous times, but each time with a different phrasing. There are others of their early tracks where they still sound a bit indie before indie was even a thing. Songs like Even Serpents Shine and The Immortal Story. But as the album progresses, so the songs become more normal. Simple beats with obvious verses and choruses. It is very good, but it does look like they were being made to come up with another hit, or even some stadium rock anthems, like a new Squeeze. And there was nothing wrong with Squeeze, but we had Squeeze, and what we needed was the oddness of early Only Ones. As a follower of the pub rock scene, and as someone who had played in a band in London, it seemed there were always bands who just had to plug in for you to feel the electricity. Bands with a frontman, often in leopard pattern and cowskin, who looked like rock stars even in Sainsbury's. Iggy's and Ziggy's hanging off the mic stand, stoned immaculate. It was a news story recently that Peter Perrett had recovered from drug addiction and was back. But I would not want to see a sad, barely recognisable creature that was once briefly a hero. The Immortal Story. The Only Ones.
Big thank you to Twangling Jack Ford for this week's album review. As always, we are repeated on Wickham Sound on Monday nights. We're on the Wickham Sound Listen again. We're on iTunes, Spotify and wherever else you get your podcasts. Please do leave us a short review on your podcast platform of choice. It all helps. You can also find us on Facebook. If you search for The Art Show on Wickham Sound, you should be able to find us. And you can reach out to me here at the studio on dane.cobain at wickhamsound.org.uk. That's dane.cobain at wickhamsound.org.uk. So I'm going to leave you with one last tune, and this is Grace Note with their version of When You're Gone by Bryan Adams and Mel C. Cracking tune. And I will catch you next week.
I've been wandering around the house all night, wondering what the hell to do. And I'm trying to concentrate, but all I can think of is you. Well, the phone don't ring 'cause my friends ain't home. Tired of being all alone. Got the TV on 'cause the radio's playing songs that remind me of you. Baby, when you're gone, I realize I'm in love. Days go on, and the nights just seem so long. Even food don't taste that good. Drink ain't doing what it should. Things just seem so wrong. Baby, when you're gone, I keep driving up and down these streets, trying to find somewhere to go. I'm looking for a familiar face, but there's no one I know. This is torture, this is pain. I think I'm gonna go insane. I hope you're coming back real soon, 'cause I don't know what to do. Baby, when you're gone, I realize I'm in love. Days go on, and the nights just seem so long. Even food don't taste that good. Drink ain't doing what it should. Things just seem so wrong. Baby, when you're gone, baby, when you're gone, when you're gone, I realize I'm in love. I'm in love. Days go on, they go on, and the nights just seem so long. Even food don't taste that good. Drink ain't doing what it should. Things just seem so wrong. Baby, when you're gone, yeah, things just seem so wrong. Baby, when you're gone.